We want to thank those who are in the Zoom. We are going to go live shortly. As soon as we reach the top of the hour, we are going to get started. If you are wherever you're joining us from, please note you're going to remain muted for this session. We're going to have a presentation first, and then we're going to take some questions. Feel free to use the chat or Q&A option located on your Zoom panel. I'm going to repeat the same information at the top of the hour, so forgive me for being a little bit repetitive. So we're going to do our countdown shortly to 6 p.m. and we're going to get started. This is Future Engineers Wanted. It is facilitated by Carleton University, located out in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So we have Sarah and we have Shelby. We're going to get started shortly. Guys, hang tight for me. Make sure you have your water if you need to stay hydrated. All right, this is the top of the hour. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. This is Sheena Ali, your Caribbean College planner and student advisor at the Student Center. Usually we are here on Wednesdays, but we are going to be doing a Monday webinar this week, and we're focusing on future engineers being wanted. And this evening session is being facilitated by Carleton University. We actually have admissions and recruitment team from Carleton, and also a former graduate of the engineering program who also now works in the engineering faculty at Carleton University. And they're going to be talking to us about engineering this evening. And so for those of you who are joining us on Zoom, you're going to remain muted for this session. But if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or chat option located on your Zoom panel. For those of you peeping in on our social media, I want to say good evening to you. Feel free to drop any comments or questions that you may have in the comment section as well. I'm not going to talk much. I'm going to hand right over to Sarah, who is admissions and recruitment, and we have Shelby, who's a former student, and she's a graduate of the engineering program and also now working at Carleton for the engineering faculty. Ladies, thank you for joining this evening. I'm going to hand it right over to you.
Thank you so much, Sheena, for the very warm welcome. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm an international admissions and recruitment officer at Carleton University. Um, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for joining. I am actually an international alumni from the school myself. I graduated in science, not in engineering, but I will do my best to answer all your questions very, very accurately. And like we said, Shelby is with us, who is a graduate from the engineering department. So we'll all get a chance to ask a lot of different questions and learn from her directly today. Um, so when we talk about Carleton, um, we first have to start with our location. Carleton University is located in Ottawa, Canada. Ottawa is the capital city, and not just any capital city. Ottawa is a G7 capital city, meaning we are located in one of the economic leading capitals in the world. Now, why would this matter to you as a student? As a student, you want to study somewhere where you have unique opportunities that lead to unique networking, that lead to unique jobs in the future, etc. Ottawa will provide that. It is the heart of the government. It is extremely diverse. It is both large and urban, but also rural. There's two different vibes that are in one city. We are a large city, but it's not very trafficky. It's extremely safe. So there's a lot to look at when you look at Ottawa as a city and a location and what it could provide to both your academic experience and your future jobs and the type of just international experience that you will have. Uh, all right, so I know today we're really zooming in on engineering. I do want to mention that our faculty of engineering and design is actually top 10 in Canada. Very, very reputable school. I will give it to Shelby to introduce herself and take us through some of the engineering details.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm Shelby. I studied engineering at Carleton. I graduated from civil engineering in 2019. I did work in the industry a little bit, but I made my way back to Carleton. And so my title here is Prospective Student Engagement Administrator with the Faculty of Engineering and Design. Okay, so what is engineering and design? We're gonna kind of get into all the programs that we have, but basically, what I like to say is we're kind of innovating, we're problem solving, we're using science principles, math principles to kind of solve these real world problems in a lot of different contexts. Um, and design. We also have three design schools, but I think we're focusing on engineering today. So if you're interested in design, I'll let you kind of take your time and look into that. So this is kind of program highlight here. So we have 22 programs within four engineering departments and three design schools. So I'm going to take some time and kind of chat a little bit about all of our engineering programs and kind of what you might be looking at, what you might be studying within each of them. Why engineering and design at Carleton? So these are kind of our pillars. We kind of reference back to these. So employability. So when you graduate with a degree from Carleton in engineering, you're ready for the workforce. We like to say that you're ready to start working right away. You're incredibly employable. Our programs are interdisciplinary. So this means that you're kind of getting a foundation in a lot of different types of engineering. You're understanding engineering principles from a lot of different areas. You're also working with engineering students in different disciplines. So you're kind of getting that interdisciplinary approach in your learning. And third is our community. And so we'll kind of chat a little bit more about our engineering community specifically at Carleton. But we kind of think our community is pretty tight knit and there's a lot going on and a lot of different ways to get involved. Okay, so this is kind of our first theme here is technology. So within our theme of technology, we have these five different engineering programs. I'll kind of just chat a little bit. I'm sure you've heard about a lot of these. So I'll start with electrical engineering. This is kind of a broader engineering. We're looking at all different types of tech. So the scale is quite large. So we might be looking at things like computers, designing circuits for computers, phones, but it kind of scales all the way up to how we're powering our cities, like how are we bringing power into our homes. We might be looking at power grids, that kind of thing. And as you go along in your degree, you'll get a little bit more specific. So in your upper years, you can kind of choose classes that are kind of more interesting to you to kind of tailor your degree. Software engineering, you're looking at lots of different coding languages. So you might be looking at Java, HTML, Python. Python you learn in first year, and every engineering student actually learns Python and learns how to apply it. And so within software, you're kind of scaling your problems, right? You're presented with kind of smaller scale software design problems, and it kind of grows from there. And you apply the different coding languages to different contexts. Um, Computer systems engineering. This one is looking at 50% hardware and 50% software. So not only are you getting that coding knowledge, but you're understanding the actual hardware systems and how it's being applied. So um, you're kind of looking at both the body and the brain and how they intersect. So there's tons of computer systems that we use nowadays. If you have automatic lights in your home, if you have a smart home, if you have like a Google Home that is connected to other things, those are all computer systems. So even in your car, when you like click push to start, the newer car designs, the button, it's connected to a computer system that tells the car to turn on. So this one's pretty relevant nowadays. Then we have communications engineering. This engineering kind of looks at all different types of tech that we use to communicate with one another. So for instance, right now, we can be in two different locations and we're using Zoom right now to connect with each other. So you might be learning about satellites, fiber optics, telecommunications. There's so many different ways and so much tech that goes into communicating at a distance. You're looking at a lot of that. And then lastly here, engineering physics. This is basically like electrical engineering, but on a much smaller scale. So we're looking at nanotechnology, microprocessors, even here, like when we have pets at home, a lot of times we'll microchip our pets. So like even the microchip that we put in our pets to track where they are or get information, that kind of thing. You might be looking at those small little engineering or electrical circuits and chips. Um, yeah, I'll let you go on. Okay, so next we have our theme of robotics and motion. And there's 3 programs in here. So we've got mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, and mechatronics. So these are all pretty closely related. Mechanical engineering, we're looking at all different types of systems that require movement. So automotive is a big one, all types of cars, trucks, trains, buses, and planes as well. Um, but within this program, we also look at heating, cooling, and ventilation. So HVAC systems, the type of, it might not be like like gears and things, but we're looking at kind of how heat is moving, heat and cool air is moving. Um, and so one of the examples that we have, actually, I'll point to the bottom left picture here, is our race car. And so we have a Ravens racing, it's a race car team that we have, and students get to design and build this race car every year, which is a cool project to work on. And so then aerospace engineering, this one is, we were actually Canada's first accredited aerospace program. So it is certainly our largest program within engineering. And so this one is kind of cool. We have 4 different streams of aerospace. And so they kind of range. You might want to focus on flight within within Earth's atmosphere, outside of Earth's atmosphere. You could be looking at things like planes, jets, drones, satellites, rockets, even like the communication technology that we're using within these systems. So it's a cool program, and you get to kind of study kind of quite specifically what you're interested in. And then the last one here, mechatronics engineering. So this is actually our newest engineering program. And this one combines 3 different types of engineering. So we're looking at mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer systems. And so I think the thing we all think about is robotics. And so robotics is a pretty big part of it. There's a lot of different applications for mechatronics engineering. So you can see kind of it looks like a prosthetic leg, or like a robotic leg that students are designing there. That's one project that they might look at. They might look at different prosthetics. But even like self-driving cars now are a mechatronic system. There's a computer, it's an electrical system, and it's having to read, so it needs to understand what it's looking at. So that computer is doing a lot of computing while it's moving, and it's cool. You get the context of all 3 of those programs within mechatronics. Okay, and now infrastructure and the environment. So this is kind of what I studied. So I did civil engineering, but there's a few different ones in here. So civil engineering, we're looking at all types of city infrastructure, whether that's roads, buildings, bridges, foundations, even how we're bringing water and electricity into our homes, where we're putting water mains. All of that is kind of encompassed within civil. And we have 4 different focuses, so you can kind of choose exactly what you want to study. So for me, I chose structures as my focus, and I got to take classes like structural analysis, and I looked at different types of building materials and used the code books to understand how to build with those materials. So like wood design, concrete design, steel design. So all of those, you kind of get that context. And then closely related here, we have architectural conservation and sustainability engineering. And so it is quite closely related to civil engineering. This one, you're getting to take some classes, particularly about theory and kind of history with the architecture students. So you don't get the design focus of architecture, but you do get to kind of understand the context of architecture kind of in this applied civil way. So the focus is a little bit more about like heritage buildings, maybe older buildings, how we can make them more sustainable. Maybe we want to change out the windows so that our building is better insulated. Maybe we want to add air conditioning. A lot of older buildings wouldn't have air conditioning installed, so we might be looking at those types of things within this program. Then we have environmental engineering. This is, I would say, probably our program that is most closely related to chemical engineering. So it's kind of from the environmental context. So we're looking at how we can refine soil, water, and air using chemical processes. So this would kind of be relevant for a lot of different areas. So if we're looking at like wastewater management, how are we cleaning the water that we're using? How can we like reduce emissions uh, in our like machining and within our cities. So this one is particularly important now too. And then that brings us into sustainable and renewable energy engineering. And so this one is kind of cool to Carleton. It's I believe we're the only school that offers this specific program. And so we're looking at different types of renewable energy sources and the technology that we use to kind of harness energy from these sources. So if we think of like wind, water, and sun, the technologies we're using are like solar panels, wind turbines, dams. How are we building these structures? How are we collecting that energy? How are we transferring that energy so that it's usable for us? And how are we distributing it? Okay, and then we have healthcare and life sciences. And so we have two programs within this. So we have two different biomedical programs. We have biomedical mechanical engineering and biomedical electrical engineering. So biomedical mechanical, as we talked about mechanical movement, so we're thinking about the human body and in terms of like movement. So we can think of things like prosthetics. Honestly, anything that interacts with the human body is technically a biomedical device. So even something like a Band-Aid or a toothbrush, those are both biomedical devices. But we could be looking at things like hip implants, like a titanium hip implant, rods and screws to repair bones. We want to make sure that we're using, the right material, good quality material, that's going to allow us to maintain movement of the body and how we can kind of optimize that. And then biomedical electrical engineering. And so this one is a lot more tech focused. You actually take a lot of classes with our computer systems engineering students. And so within this program, you're looking at a lot of biomedical imaging equipment. So a lot of equipment that you would find in hospitals, X-ray machines, MRI machines, CT scanners. Even if we think of like a pacemaker that we implant next to the heart, that's sending electrical impulses to the heart to keep it beating at a proper rate. So you could look at that kind of tech as well. And both of these programs actually give you the prerequisites to apply to med school within Ontario. So if med school was of interest, these give you the prerequisites. Okay, and co-op. So Carleton, I believe, has one of Canada's largest co-op programs. So co-op is a really great opportunity. It's paid work experience in the field, and so in the field that you're studying. And so our co-op is 16 months for engineering students, 16 months of paid work experience. It would start after your second year of studies, and you finish it before your final academic year. So it does add a year to your degree, but it's a really great opportunity to kind of get that applied experience in the field. And so on the right here of the screen, we have some of our highlighted employers that hire Carleton's co-op students. We have a job bank that you get access to, that you kind of apply to all of these opportunities that you're seeing in the job bank to kind of secure your own position. So it's not a placement program. We don't necessarily guarantee that you'll get a job. We want to see that you're putting in the effort to kind of apply to these positions to secure something for yourself. Okay, how do I become a licensed engineer in Canada? So I graduated from an engineering program in Canada. So you'll see my ring here. That's what you get when you get a bachelor's degree in engineering in Canada. Um, but I can't call myself an engineer. So you can only call yourself an engineer once you have your degree. You have 4 years of work experience, and you've taken an ethics test. And so the governing body or the governing uh, group in Ontario. It's called Professional Engineers Ontario. And so these governing bodies are actually province. They're attached to each province. So it's not all of Canada, but you recognize as an engineer if you're within kind of if I was like a PEng within Ontario. Um, and so once you've done your 4 years of work, you would submit kind of all of that documentation to the PEO, and they give you kind of that certification. Um, so that's how it works in Ontario. Uh, and now what about at home? And so I don't have a specific answer for that. It's kind of, I guess, your homework to kind of look into see what is required of engineers in your country, in your home, and to see what that kind of transition looks like. So if you are planning on getting a degree in Canada and you want to take it back home, you'll just have to kind of do the homework and make those links for yourself and see how that transitions. Because usually there's some kind of test at least, but I can't speak to the individual places.
They one thing, Shelby, if they are going to return to the Caribbean, they have to make sure that whatever degree that they obtain was accredited in the jurisdiction in which they would have studied. So they would
Okay, yes.
be recognized or accredited by the engineering council or whatever the governing body is. That is one of the requirements.
Okay, great. Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shelby. I cannot believe that you have all of this sitting, and it's a lot of engineering programs and it's a lot of options for students. And again, it is a very, very, very reputable program. I highly encourage you to go look it up online. Our department is absolutely great. Um, so we talked a little bit about engineering options. I want to tell you a little bit about how you can study engineering. How do you get admitted into Carleton as an engineering student? So, one of the first things that I want to point out, we have on our website a really cool tool for students to select their background. It's almost like a calculator. You select your background as an international student or even a Canadian living abroad, you would select international high school because you are studying internationally. A third, so it's not showing in this screenshot, but there is a third line that will pop up that asks you what curriculum did you study. In there, you can choose CAPE, you can choose A levels, you can choose a US high school. There are so many different systems, and if you don't find it, you can go and click on national curriculum. In your case, you will most likely, in today's event, you will most likely find your curriculum on there. And then you select the program of interest. Let's say for this webinar that it is engineering, right? So if you do that and then you click on get details, you will get very specific requirements. It will tell you the subjects you need at the levels that you need with minimum grade requirements, etc. So please utilize this tool. It is very helpful for both engineering and all the other programs. So I will give some background as to what the admissions office would require from a student who is applying to engineering. Um, Academic performance is key. Our admission is merit-based. It is grade-based. Admission in and of itself, so saying, yes, you are welcome to come study at Carleton University for at least most programs, is based on whether you have the grades or not. It's not based on SATs, it's not based on extracurriculars, any of that. Not personal statements or reference letters. These could come in handy, and we'll talk about when they can come in handy. But for now, it's based on grades. Admission does vary. So the grade requirements, they do vary between the different programs that shall be mentioned. So something, for example, like aerospace engineering has a much higher requirement, or not much higher, but higher requirement in terms of grades than, let's say, as an example, civil engineer, right? So, one thing to keep in mind is that there's not one grade that I need to get to be admitted into any engineering program. However, we know that there are students who are pretty good students. Maybe they don't qualify for a particular kind of engineering. In that case, we will give you something called an alternative offer. Let's say you apply to aerospace engineering and we say, hey, this didn't meet the requirements, but instead we can admit you into this other type of engineering. So don't stress too much. As long as you are a good student, you're getting good grades, etc., you should be admissible. Um, in terms of the prerequisites, so a prerequisite is a course or a subject that we are looking for. Now, my examples on the slide you will see are CAPE, but I know from Sheena that we may be being joined by some students from A levels or other types of curriculums. The subjects stay the same. So in the example of CAPE, for example, we will need from you to see math, we will need to see physics, and we will need to see chemistry. And Shelby, if you stay on with me for a second, I've got a question for you because I know students right now are asking themselves, why chemistry? Do you want to give us a little idea of why we require chemistry?
So part of why chemistry is required, you need kind of a fundamental understanding of certain types of sciences, and so chemistry is part of like Canada's accreditation curriculum for engineering students. So the simple answer is because we're an accredited university for engineering, we do require chemistry, but it will just be, it is a class that you take in first year. So you take it once in first year and you don't take it again unless you are in environmental engineering or one of the biomedical engineering programs.
Thanks,
That's my,
Shelby. It makes sense. So because we're an accredited program, we do have to meet, and you have to meet as a graduate from Carleton, the accreditation requirements, and that would include taking first year chemistry, which would require you to have chemistry in your high school subjects. Now, we do accept chemistry at the CSEC level. It does not have to be CAPE, whereas everything else does need to be CAPE or A level or AS level. So if you're an A level student, we need your prerequisites A or AS, and if you're CAPE, we need them at the CAPE. Chemistry is the only exception where we accept either O level chemistry or CSEC chemistry. Oh, sorry. That link actually just took us directly to where we to the it does it again. All right. It took us to the calculator tool. All right. So, a little bit about our university's community. So, I know I mentioned earlier a little bit about our location, being in Ottawa, being in the capital, having that capital advantage. I want to show you our very, very beautiful campus. Being a student myself, having graduated, I don't even want to say how long ago I graduated, but I graduated some time ago. And I've been on this campus ever since. I've been employed by Carleton after being a student right away. And so this to me is home. We have a beautiful campus. We've got our academic buildings, we've got dorms, residents on campus. Um, we can talk about it a little and you can ask me questions about it, but we do offer guaranteed residence to our first year students. So it's basically a guarantee. You just need to confirm it to us by a certain deadline. You can live there up to 12 months as an international student. We've got a really cool thing, underground tunnels. I know a lot of people, including me, I came from the Middle East, are worried about Canada's cold and the climate, etc. But our underground tunnel system is basically it connects the entire campus, and this includes your dorms, together. So you don't need to step outside to go from one building to the other. You can go through very well ventilated, really cool tunnels that have graffiti on them made by our students and student clubs, etc. So you can move from one place to the other indoors through a very large campus that is, I believe, over 150 acres. Of course, we also have athletics. You can see how close we are to the Rideau Canal. It actually crosses through our campus. This freezes during the winter. It's a really cool experience for students. And you can see how close we are to downtown. We're just about a 15-minute drive from downtown. We also have a train that crosses our campus, etc. Uh, do you want to tell us, Shelby, a little bit about our engineering community?
I would love to. So on this slide, we kind of look at some of our competitive design teams. So I'll just talk through some of the pictures that you see here. But we have our concrete canoe design team. So these students design and build a concrete canoe every year, and they compete against other schools. So all of our competitive design teams, I guess I'll preface before I go into all of these are open to all students. So technically, you don't have to be in engineering to participate in these. But oftentimes it is a lot of engineering students that are involved in these because they kind of are pretty engineering focused. But it's kind of however much time you feel you want to commit to these projects every week, it's up to you. It's entirely extracurricular, but it's a great way to kind of involve yourself in the community, make friends, um, and kind of learn a lot along the way. So you don't have to have any kind of knowledge going into these teams. You can kind of show up and learn as you go. Um, the other one here in the top right corner is our CPRT team. So it's our Carleton Planetary Robotics team. They design and build kind of this like Mars rover every year, but they bring it to two different competitions. I believe they bring it to Utah and to Alberta in Canada. Um, and it just has to do a bunch of different tasks that a Mars rover might have to do. And then in the middle there, you can see our CU in Space Rocketry Club. They design and build two different rockets every year that they bring to two different competitions. Um, and their rocket, I believe, has to hit around like 30,000 feet. So it's like cruising altitude of a plane. And that once it hits that altitude, it like splits apart and parachutes back down to ground. So students kind of do all of the work to design and calculate those things and design the technology that goes into it. So really cool opportunity. On the bottom, it's another picture of our Formula One style race car team. So our team is called Ravens Racing. They bring their car to a big competition in Michigan every year. They compete against 120 other schools, um, doing different types of tracks and races. That one's kind of cool actually because it's both a competitive team and a fourth year design project. So part of engineering, you do like a capstone project in fourth year that kind of encompasses all the things that you've learned throughout your degree. So that's an option. And then the last one there is our Trotsky bridge design team. So they have to use wood, floss, and glue to design a bridge to hold a certain amount of weight. Okay. And this is kind of a list of some of our academic support services. So I won't go through all of them, but I'll just highlight a couple that are kind of cool at Carleton. So the first we have listed here is our Women in Engineering and IT program. So this program was kind of put into place to help support our female students. We know that engineering and IT is still pretty like male dominated fields. And so at Carleton, we have a study lounge that is, swipe card access. So if you want to be part of the Women in Engineering and IT program, you can have access granted. You have access to graduate students who are all mentors in that space. So they might do different workshops. You can get that one-on-one mentorship from them. They do, we also host like industry nights. So like women that are in industry in Canada, you can kind of interact with them, hear about what it's like to work in the field, and so forth. So really great opportunity. We also have our academic support office. And so um, it's kind of nice. Engineering has its own academic support office right in the engineering building. So they build your first year timetable for you. You don't have to worry about picking and choosing all of the lectures, labs, tutorials, and problem analysis sessions. It gets a little bit overwhelming to see in first year. So we make that for you. We give it to you. You don't have to worry about it. You just have to register. And so if you had any questions about classes to take or if you needed any kind of accommodations, if you were playing maybe varsity sports and you needed to rearrange your schedule, you can chat with these folks, and they're a really great resource for that. And then the last one I like to point out is our therapy dog program. So um, we have, I think, over 12 therapy dogs on campus. And so they hold office hours. So during times that students maybe are a little more stressed out during midterms and exams, there'll be office hours in different locations in different buildings. You can go spend some time with the therapy dogs and just de-stress.
I think this is my favorite support service on campus.
Agreed. Okay, and we would love to connect with you. So this is kind of from my team with the Faculty of Engineering and Design. We do tours. We do them both in person and virtual. So if you wanted to connect and kind of look through some of the spaces virtually, we can do that. We can have a virtual meeting as well. And if you wanted to come to the campus, I mean, we always encourage you to come check out the campus. I know it's probably a little a bit of a trek to come see us, but if you have the opportunity, we would love to see you.
Thank you so much. And yes, that's Jessica, who some of you may have met in recent fairs held across the Caribbean.
Mhm.
She can't be with us today, but we have the lovely Sarah, and we definitely have Shelby, who more than made up for Jessica not being here with me this evening. But I want to make sure I use Shelby's time here. So I have some quick firing questions for you coming from engineering. So sometimes schools have a Bachelor of Engineering, or then some persons might have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering, and then some might have a Bachelor of Applied Science in Engineering. Is there a distinct difference between these setups when it comes to Canadian universities or colleges offering these programs? And is one more geared towards you becoming an engineer or not? Are you supposed to pick a BEng over the others? It's a little confusing.
Great. Yeah, great question. And honestly, what you want to look for when you're looking at programs is that they are accredited engineering programs. And so if you are looking at a Bachelor of Applied Science, but they're saying that it's an accredited engineering program, then you don't have to worry because it's equivalent. So it's less about the title of the bachelor's and more about the accreditation of that program.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense because, you hear different conflicting narratives.
Yes,
I just want to make sure that you don't discourage someone from a school that really would be a good fit for them and you're not hunkering over nomenclature. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for that
no
explanation. That's been
problem.
with me for a while. Um, and so you talked about 4 years of work experience in terms of becoming an engineer. Is all of the 4 years should be within Ontario, for example, or could a person obtain work experience across Canada or even outside of Canada for 4 years?
That's a good question. From my knowledge, you have to be working under an accredited Canadian engineer, so somebody with their PEng.
Okay.
Um, so that one might
A little
you can
tricky.
look on the website for like Professional Engineers Ontario to get that like nitty gritty. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm assuming as long as you're working under a PEng, even if it is overseas, that's okay.
Yes.
But I'd want to double check that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. And you mentioned a lot of different engineering programs. And students sometimes at 18 or 17 years old may not always be sure what type of engineer they want to be. And so what would be tips or advice you would give them in trying to figure it out along the way? Suppose they're not ready yet, but they know it's engineering. What would you best recommend to those students?
Well, first of all, I know that it is such a difficult decision to make because it is hard to get that exposure and to understand like what you're getting into. Um, So doing research, like think about the things that you like naturally. Like what do you naturally like to study and try to understand? Like are you, looking at ty like buildings, like, oh, I wonder, why they decided this type of column or this, whatever. If that's your inclination, amazing. If you like tinkering with like um, software development, or like you love coding, or you like kind of working with I don't know, electronics, like if you're inclined to look at those types of things, pay attention to those things. Sometimes if we don't have the exposure to those things, like look online, see what people are doing, like what do you like looking at? And then if you decide something, say you start a program at Carleton, um, you're not necessarily locked in. There is opportunity to switch your program if you end up not loving it. We don't guarantee that you can get into a different program. It always depends on availability in the program and your grades in first year, but you certainly can. There is opportunity there to change if you uh, decide something else is more interesting, because you get a little bit more exposure in first year also to different types of engineering, because you kind of take these like fundamental courses. Um, but I think that would be
So
my advice.
research and definitely try at something, ask questions so there's no right
Yes.
or wrong no matter what you choose. But this kind of leads me into my next question for you. Um, is it better for students to stay broad for undergrad? So for example, like staying within, if I wanted to do biomedical, but would it bias me if I just started in mechanical? So could I move from mechanical or electrical into biomed as opposed to specializing so early at undergrad for biomed? The reason why I asked that too is because I've been doing this role for a number, well over a decade. I won't tell you how old I am, but for a long time. And um, what I found, some students don't, all in certain specialized areas, don't easily get a co-op sometimes because there are not as many industries or businesses in that field yet. And so I find the ones doing broader ones like electrical or software or mechanical tend to get placed easier than say somebody looking at biomed. So that's why I asked that question. What's your thought or opinion on that?
Generally, so if you are taking, biomedical engineering and you're wanting a biomedical experience, like sometimes it is harder to find jobs in that particular field. However, your degree is also setting you up to be able to work in different types of engineering fields. So if you are super interested in biomedical mechanical engineering, when you're applying to like co-op positions or jobs, after you graduate, you might want to open up your like what you're applying to like other mechanical jobs, because your degree is all, like kind of setting you up to be knowledgeable in that field already. So I would still say kind of follow the interest. Like if biomed is really what you're interested in, follow that. It doesn't always, it means like you might have to be more flexible with how you're starting your career. Um, but it certainly doesn't like pigeonhole you into a specific area, I would say.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you because, we like students, we always recommend students, especially when they're so young, like to stay as nimble and broad-minded as possible until they get the experience and they can narrow themselves a little bit. So that kind of cements some of the advice we provide to some students. So thank you for that. I have a question, and this is admissions based. So we do have a student who is a transfer, possible transfer with post-secondary education. So they're doing an associate's degree. So they're wondering if Carleton will also accept them with an associate's degree.
Yeah, so we actually process transfer applications very similarly than the way that we do a applicant directly from high school. We look at the subjects that the student is taking in their current transcripts, and look for the prerequisites within them. Carleton will always take the higher level. So if you've taken math in high school, but you've also taken math in university in your first year or your second year, we're going to look at the university one. Push comes to shove, if you are making a transfer that is completely different, so you've completely changed your mind, you want to move into a whole new thing, we might also look at your high school to give you that opportunity. But generally speaking, for a transfer student, it is very similar. I would say that scholarships, which I know we didn't touch on yet, I wanted to just give Shelby all the time because I know she does have to leave us soon. But I will go back and talk about scholarships in a second. Unfortunately, students who already have university degree, a university degree or university studies may not be eligible for scholarships versus a student applying from high school.
Thank you for that. That's important to know. Not all, and it's typically a common practice among a lot of universities. There are some exceptions, but if you're looking at Carleton, just be mindful. But the trade-off is that you may cut time. So the
Mhm.
scholarship may come in reduced time, so less cost. So it's still like a
Yeah.
scholarship will it being a scholarship in a sense, depending on how much transfers. I want to ask Shelby again a question. I know she said she did civil engineering. And so I'm curious as to, are there plans to fulfill the professional requirements to get your PN, or like not to get in your business, but tell us your evolution after being in civil engineering, and you have a role that we work in the engineering, but from a different perspective.
Yes. Well, if I'm being honest, my path has been a little bit all over the place. So I did my degree. I worked in the field for a couple of years. So I did civil engineering consulting for a bridge design team in Ottawa. Um, and it was really cool and it was a cool experience. I I didn't have a lot of exposure to like the field before graduating. So I still wasn't I think the profession maybe just isn't wasn't for me, and so that's why I kind of came back to Carleton. So I'm working on a different degree right now actually while I work. So I'm doing a psychology degree. My path is, is changing. But I'm still able to use the degree working at Carleton right now, which has been awesome. So it opened doors I didn't think it would open, which has been great. Um, but yeah, your path is never as straight as you think it's going to be.
No. And if you don't mind, I would love to jump in here and just mention to students, actually, co-op is not always just to give you that hands-on experience so that you get a job later. It's also that hands-on experience that tells you, maybe I don't like this the way I thought I would like it. Maybe this isn't actually the space that I wanted to be in. Getting that exposure ahead of time can save you a lot of hassle, right? So co-op sometimes is the reason you discover, actually, maybe I do want to transfer to something different.
True story. In my case, many moons ago, when I was an undergrad in New York City, my internship was at United Nations, and that internship taught me I don't want to work there. True story. I no longer wanted to save the world. So,
It does. It absolutely happens. I will also, I mean, I'm not an Eng student, but I am a science graduate, and I absolutely am in love with the program that I studied, neuroscience and mental health at Carleton. I have until today, I have a library of neuroscience books today. It's basically everything that I love in the world, but I'm not working within the field because I realized I love people. I want to talk to people. I want to be out there. I didn't want to be in a lab.
mm,
So this happens, and students need to know that you will need to have your options open and your mind open, and it's all about eventually getting into the place and the career and spending your time doing something that you enjoy and that you love. That's
yes.
all that really, really, really matters when it really comes down to it.
And I can pay the bills, so be reasonable. So, yeah, you got to pay the bills. So
That
even
too, for sure.
life funds the passion, then the passion can eventually become your day to day. That is fine too. No one's telling you to close, but just be pragmatic and strategic with your options. And so I wanted to really ask Shelby that. And I know you have to go soon. So any parting words to any student, those that may look back at this video again at some time, any parting words?
I mean, do your research, do lots of reading, chat with people. Um, Chat with people working in the field, reach out to people, don't hesitate to connect with people. A lot of times people want to tell you about themselves. So if you see somebody on LinkedIn doing a job that you're interested in, reach out because oftentimes people want to talk about themselves. You just have questions. So, connect with us, connect with other people, ask lots of questions. That's my parting advice.
Thank you so much, Shelby. I really appreciate time you gave us this evening.
Thanks
Thank you
so
so much,
much.
Sylvie, for joining us.
Yes, no problem. Take care, everybody.
Bye. So, Sarah is us now, and I know you wanted to get to the scholarships part and talk
I
about other,
do.
so I'll let you get on with that.
Yeah. Uh, okay. Where's my scholarship slide? What's going on? Okay. I don't know where my scholarship slide is, but
Okay.
I will take a minute to actually do two things. I will talk about scholarships,
Mhm.
um, but I do want to say that Jessica, my colleague, who typically recruits in the Caribbean, was going to be here today. With you all. But due to unforeseen circumstances, she wasn't able to. However, I do want you to kind of jot down her email. If you have any questions later, if you remember something, if you want to follow up on a certain point, Jess is incredible and she is more than happy to help you. And a lot of you, I believe, we've got her picture over here, have already met her as well. So please feel free to connect with her. In the meantime, I want to tell you a little bit about scholarships. It's funny because I can find I'm looking at the scholarship slide on my phone right now on the same presentation, and it's just not here. So,
Okay.
we do offer three types of scholarships for international students when they're applying to Carleton. Two of those are automatic, which means you don't need to apply for them. You just simply apply to Carleton, and when you do, we automatically assess you. This is kind of like their stress-free scholarships. They're not very large scholarships. They are one, the entrance scholarship. This scholarship, if you have an 80% average and above, automatically you will receive it. This goes anywhere between 1,000 up to 4,000 Canadian dollars removed from your tuition every year, should you maintain your GPA. And then the other scholarship is also automatic, the President's Welcome Award. This one is anywhere between 2,000 to 5,000 Canadian dollars that will be deducted out of your first year tuition. So let's say that you get a $4,000 scholarship in the entrance and you get 5,000 for your first year. That's 9,000 removed from your first year as a Carleton student. The third scholarship is not automatic. The third scholarship is a lot more competitive, and this is where your extracurriculars start to make a difference. This requires its own application. After you apply to Carleton, it has a deadline. You fill out a form that has lots of questions about your extracurriculars. It's basically asking you to show that you are a prestige student. So you make a prestigious impact in your community and have a minimum of 90% average and above. So that's kind of to give the gist of it. This goes up to anywhere between 5,000 Canadian dollars up to 14,000 Canadian dollars removed from your tuition every year. Yeah.
What is the deadline for the last one you spoke about that requires a separate application?
Yes. So the deadline for the Prestige Scholarship is March 1st. So students need to already have an application in by then and have received a Carleton ID number from us. So I want to say at least the application needs to be put in a week or two in advance, and then they'd be able to apply for the scholarship before the deadline. So just keep in mind that if you want to go for it, give it a try. There's no losing here. If anything, you might be chosen for the Prestige Scholarship. It would be March 1st that you need to have your application submitted.
Okay, thanks for that. So March 1st, the deadline for the Prestige Scholarship, that requires a separate application and on the condition that you would have already applied to Carleton. So if
Yeah.
you work back against that timeline, you should probably submit your application between mid-October and now, and
Yeah.
then gives you enough room and time to work on the separate application for the third option. The others are automatic, and that all depends on what you bring to the table. So good grades, a balance, extracurricular routine, leadership, obviously. It doesn't have to be 100 things you're doing. Just
No.
a nice balance and things that you genuinely like and you're interested in, then they can tell that in how you write about it and how you
Yeah.
present yourself.
Yeah.
So I know in those three categories of scholarships you spoke about, those are for all only high school students. Those coming
Yes,
straight from
these
second.
are for students coming directly from high school. So unfortunately, they wouldn't apply to transfer student.
Okay.
I do want to mention the two automatic scholarships, the entrance scholarship and the President's Award. We don't need extracurriculars for that. We will only need them to have an 80% average and above, technically.
Okay, so those are
Yeah.
academic only, but the third one, the
The
prestige
competitive one, yeah.
competitive one, you will have to have different extra bits and pieces put
Yeah.
together in your application. Okay, we have another question here. Um, the President's Welcome Scholarship removes how much? Or can you repeat that again?
Yes. So the President's Welcome Award basically removes 2,000 up to, so minimum 2,000, maximum 5,000 Canadian dollars from your first year tuition. So unlike the entrance scholarship, it's not renewable on a yearly basis. It's only for your first year.
Because it's a
And it's
welcome.
done. Yes, it's basically a welcome. It's for your first year only. Whereas the entrance scholarship, if you maintain your GPA, you continue getting that 4,000 removed every year from your tuition.
Are all three stackable in a sense, or you can only have one?
The two automatic ones are stackable. So
Mm-hmm.
the entrance scholarship and the President's Award, those are stackable. Unfortunately, the Prestige is not stackable. So the Prestige would be a standalone. Even if you receive a conditional offer from us before March, because our applications are already open and offers are already going out to students, if you receive an offer before March, and then in March you actually receive the Prestige Scholarship, we give you a revised offer where we reinstate, we put the bigger amount, which is the Prestige Scholarship, and the entrance, for example, would be taken away.
Makes sense. Okay. You can't have it both ways. It's either one or the other. So the first two are stackable, and the welcome one is not renewable, but the entrance one is renewable.
Yes,
The
and
prestige
Prestige is renewable as well.
Prestige is renewable as well, but that's the more competitive one, which will have its own separate application and will take into consideration your extracurriculars. Okay, well, that sounds pretty fair. And thank you for that information, Sarah. Really appreciate that. We're coming up to the top of the hour. You have any more, see if we have any more questions before we tap out. We can take another one if need be. They have one for transfer students though. So
Yeah,
when they apply, they provide their course outlines, do they?
yeah,
And so that means they could be assessed for any possible transfer credits, which could lead to course exemptions.
that
Like,
is correct.
does
That is
that happen
correct.
before the offer or that happens after the offer?
So technically, it could happen either or. This we will request the course outlines from the student before we are giving an offer. But in order for them to know what they're going to take in university, they will need to know or to what year they're being admitted. We encourage, especially for transfer students, because this is a long process where we have to go through the course outlines, apply as soon as you know you want to go to Carleton, and try and submit those course outlines, whatever you have available, so that we can begin to compare and look at those course outlines so that you can go in a timely manner, especially as an international student who needs to submit a study permit application and, all of that kind of stuff. So the more time management you have, the better the situation will be um, in terms of getting your offer ready. We can give an offer before. It's not encouraged. It gets things more complicated. So if you have the course outlines, submit them right away.
Okay, great. So at point of application, they start to upload documents, submit documents. If they can access their course outlines prior, they can submit it alongside their other supporting documents so that
Yeah.
that process of assessing and mapping and seeing equivalencies could occur much earlier than later down the road after the fact. And you might still have the potentiality of starting at year one then,
Yeah.
which could be sometimes frustrating for some students.
Of course. Of course, I can imagine. Yeah.
So ideally, though, it's not necessarily that it's going to be a 2+2. It could be maybe a 3+1, especially if they're coming from outside of Canada.
So in terms of like how many years,
Yeah,
typically speaking, Carleton does not give more than 2 years worth.
right,
So you will always complete at least 2 years at Carleton
right.
in
Okay.
order to graduate with a Carleton degree.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the ruling around it. And then whatever else, if we can give you the 2 years, we will.
Okay.
But unfortunately, if the course outlines don't match or are not working out, the mapping is not working out, then we can't. But we do our best to give the student as many credits as we can within that 2 year timeline.
Finding it a little bit more flexible when a student does a general, like an associate degree of science and take majors. If they do like a math, a bio, a chem, I find the transferability of credits higher than if they do something more applied based because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
tougher.
Typically
Okay.
speaking, especially if a student is in first year classes are usually quite general and most of the time transferable. Um, so yes, in that case, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So, Sarah, I want to really thank you for this evening. Thank you for filling in for Jessica. I want to thank those who stayed on for the length of time, those on our social media, and those joining us in the Zoom. We have one more quick question popping in here. Just, oh, how hands-on are the engineering programs? That's
Yes, they are very hands-on. As Shelby had mentioned, actually, engineering students have a capstone project. So even if you're not part of, let's say, the co-op program, which gives you that hands-on experience, you still have a project to complete in order to graduate. That in and of itself will allow students from different programs coming together, teaming up, and working on very large projects for like a year in order to graduate. So not only does it give you that hands-on experience to do things yourself, but also to experience what other types of engineers are doing around you and how it relates to you and what it will really look like in the industry. Because when you go into the industry, it's not just going to be like, oh, I'm working at this. I'm a mechanical engineer and everybody around me is a mechanical engineer. No, the reality is that it's very interdisciplinary within the job industry. So it'll give you that. But I will mention Carlton's co-op program. Quite honestly, co-op almost doubles, if not quadruples, your opportunities in terms of actual experience and jobs in the future. And we have the third largest co-op program in all of Ontario, as well as the fastest growing in all of Ottawa, sorry, in all of Canada. So we continue to get more and more and more opportunities for students who are in engineering to have that hands-on experience. We also have the only tech hub in all of Canada here in Ottawa. So yes, very hands-on is what I can answer to that if I wanted to put it in simple terms.
because I guess it will be helpful, especially if you are a hands-on type learner, you're a visual learner,
Yes,
or someone that needs
yes,
to practice to get the
of
application
course.
of your knowledge to see how it translates into the physical
Yeah,
or the tangible. So it's
of
important.
course.
Um, and all schools are pretty much great, but if you're looking at particular school, it still has to meet with your learning requirements so that you could perform
Yes.
as best as you can. So and I do have students in the engineering programs over the years at Carleton, and they're pretty hands-on. I find if you're a high performance student and you are a technical minded person, then this school will be a good fit. So high performing, technical, visual learner, and you're self motivating because no one is going to baby you. So I will say then this environment will be great for you. And even outside of the engineering, I know this is specific to engineering, but if you are interested in the world of development, if you're interested in the world of international politics, economics, um, I would think being in Ottawa, which houses a lot of embassies, high commissions,
Yes.
um, that's where the government of Canada, their bases,
Mhm.
capital city, lots of development agendas going on there. So it
Sure.
will also be a good hub for those interested. When you think about where you're going, if you're going outside of your home country, go and you're thinking about getting internships and you're going to be on a study permit or visa, there are certain things that may not always be easily accessible to you as if you're not a citizen or a permanent resident. So you have to be strategic. Location, location, location. So I know everyone looks at Toronto, um, but you have to know how Canada is divided across the provinces and where there are certain hubs for certain types of activity. So
Yes.
do your research before you just pop off on a school because it's popular or you like the name of it. So
That's
that
correct. I also want to add to that, as an international student, and I know because I was in your shoes not that long ago, as an international student, you need to also consider the day to day. So I know some cities or some areas or some countries even will sound like, oh, cool, like I want to be in that place. But one of the things you want to think about is your safety. The other thing that you want to think about is how do something as simple as commute or getting groceries or getting to the gym, the things that will make your day to day livable versus not livable, that will impact whether you have stress and then impact your academics. All of that is important. And I know we don't think about the day to day very often, but especially at your age, it's the time to dream big. But
Mhm.
do consider your day to day and what that would look like. Because if I had to travel for an hour and a half in order to get to my class at 8 in the morning, I know I'm probably not going. So,
Or two
versus if I
hours.
can get there in 15 minutes, I might be going. So
It's
just keep these things in your consideration.
yeah, and it's context. A 2 hour commute on the subway in New York is normal. A 2 hour commute though in Toronto on the train is a no-no. Having to catch a bus to a train to another bus, no. Anything, so every country's set up differently. Know your countries, ask people. So do your research for sure. Thanks for that. Sarah, where are you originally from, by the way?
I'm from Lebanon.
I was trying to figure out your accent for the longest time. I was saying
Oh,
eh,
well,
oh,
it's
that
very
area.
hard to tell.
I was thinking that area, but the geographic location, but I just couldn't pick the country. But yes.
Yeah, I'm from Lebanon. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I studied in
God,
American school. I live in Canada, so I'm all
your
over the
accent
place.
all over the place. Yes.
I am actually extremely blessed to have been all over the place.
Yes.
Extremely, yeah.
Yeah, 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 but interesting. I was trying to figure it out. Whole time. Oh, well, I want to thank you, Sarah, again, and for giving us some extra minutes on the hour. And for those who stayed with us, thank you so much. We'll keep checking for when we have more webinars like this, because this is our way of also getting information to you. And also keep checking out the Student Center's Cut Fest Education Fair website. We have our events there, and when we will have an event in your country. I just came back from Guyana. I believe I am pegged to be heading to Antigua at some time soon with some schools as well. So keep checking it out. Tell Jessica we send our hellos and we send her
I
regard.
will. Thank you
And
so much, Sheena, and thank you everybody who joined today. I really, really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
I'm glad that you did. Until next time, folks, have a very good evening. Let me sign out from social media and I will stop the recording.